We are Fandom Roulette.
Two nerds with a passion for
History,
video games,
tabletop games,
and, well, really any nerdy stuff that comes into our lives.
While we might not be able to name every ship classification in Star Wars,
Or every Pokemon.
or every spell in the player's handbook,
Well, one of us can.
we're still here to have a good time. Hey everyone, welcome to Fandom Roulette. This is Joe.
And I'm Cody.
And on Fandom Roulette, this is a podcast where we talk about a myriad of nerdy things, including such things as history, video games, tabletop role-playing games, and whatever nerdy stuff we think about wanting to talk about at the time. So, this is the video game section of this her podcast.
Yeah.
So yeah. For those of you who are listening, we're doing it different now. But anyway, shall I toss it over to you, Cody?
Yeah, I'll
Right.
take the mic.
Without further ado, here's Cody.
And I come in tap dancing and do that grand gesture and the lights flash
you're
too.
You're going to put that in post then? It's like you.
Yeah, I'm going to put it in post. I'll be like tap dancing, be like ta 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 ta, and then ha! And then there will be a big old curtain pull away. And if this was a visual medium, it would be perfect.
All right, very good.
But no, so if you've been following along with this season, this section for me was great games of 2019 and forward to 2020. And if any of you, like me, are familiar with video games, we had a lot of games get pushed back to the end of this year instead of the beginning of this year, which has been extremely super hyper sad. Like Cyberpunk, which is like the game I've been looking forward to the longest, got pushed back to September.
That's a bummer.
Dying Light got pushed back to ?
Okay.
There was one more game that got pushed back.
The Animal Crossing?
Oh, I hope Animal Crossing hasn't gotten pushed back. I'm gonna cry if
Okay.
I need that one.
That's how you phrased it. Okay.
Yeah, no, Animal Crossing is my saving grace at the moment. Although another game just popped into the spotlight. But today, since I don't really have a game of 2020 yet, seeing as how we're about 22 days in and everything's just getting pushed back, I figure I would talk about last year and the kind of how, or just kind of generally talking about remakes, because in the past 3 years we've had so many interesting remakes. We've had I believe Shadow of the Colossus was one of them. There's also been a lot of ports games going over, and so on our stream that started this Monday, this previous Monday when this airs, I decided to pick up Resident Evil 2 in hype for the Resident Evil 3 remake. And this is one of those games where in terms of remakes, so the general concept is that a game came out a long time ago on a console that nobody plays anymore. For the case of Resident Evil 2, the game originally came out on the PlayStation without the number, and we're already getting close to 5. So it's been a while. It's been a hot minute. It's been a while since I've had Resident Evil. Anyways,
You were kidding about putting on a show.
I feel like in the new format I have to really up the ante for some reason. So Resident Evil 2 Remake came out last year, and arguably it's my favorite remake of 2019.
Okay.
Even more so than Link's Awakening, which arguably is amazing and beautiful and cute. But there is just something... I feel like Resident Evil 2 Remake has set the bar for me on what remakes should be. Because I've seen remakes in the past, or what I would prefer to call some of them ports, which are basically hey, this came out on the PlayStation, we're going to give it to you on the PlayStation 4. We're not going to change a whole lot. It's just so that you can play it. And we see a lot of those. Phoenix Wright, which was a Nintendo DS exclusive, is now on Steam. And they basically re-arted it so that it would kind of not be pixelated. Because I'm pretty sure the Phoenix Wright games were still done with pixel art. And so I bring all this up because now we're in the age of video games where when I was younger, like the old games were like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega, and they were all 2D, it was all pixels. And now we're getting to the point where like that's way old, right? Like super old. Like
don't say it like that, Cody.
It's getting there, right? Like people who are getting into games as young people now are kind of used to that AAA polish, that like 3D, like everything looks fucking amazing and like it's, you know, got crazy voice actors and all that stuff. But then, you know, we see all these games that are getting remade because like they didn't have the technology back then, or the console just didn't have the capabilities to do what the Link's Awakening remake did, where it's like this, you know, almost diorama, shiny, like very cute game. Where before it was just pixels, right? And like 2 colors, and that wasn't before they ported it to the Game Boy Color. And like remakes, I think, are going to stay around. You know, people are constantly going to be remaking games. Like I wouldn't be surprised if we saw more of, like, I think we're getting to the point now where it's like the PS3 is kind of old, which is wild to me because I feel like it's not. Like I still have a PS3 in my basement that's collecting dust. But like I feel like I'm getting to the point where like they're going to start remaking stuff that was exclusive to the PS3 on the PS5, right?
Yeah, that's weird.
It's a weird concept, but I really feel like it's worth noting that remakes should, at least in my opinion, they should feel like Resident Evil 2. And what I mean by that is, like, they should do something new, right? Like, Link's Awakening was all right, but it didn't hit my top because it was the same game. And the thing that they added didn't really resonate very, like, well with me. Like, I had no interest in the new dungeon creating mechanic. Like, the game was still fun and I enjoyed it, but I beat it in, like, 12 hours because I know all the puzzles. It's a puzzle game that it's kind of like watching a murder mystery movie when you already know the ending. Like, it's fun and you have a good time and you recite all the lines or whatever, but like at the end of the day I already know it, so I'm not really doing much more with it. And like the Resident Evil 2, now granted, I was probably too young to play the first Resident Evil 2. Definitely was not 18 like it suggested, but like that game was horrifying. It had, the controls were difficult. You know, there were like, the camera was always like cut in very weird angles, so it was hard to see what was coming after you. It, you know, it's the, if you're not familiar with Resident Evil, it's zombies. There's a big pharma company out there that's making zombies for fun, and it's a bad scene for everybody involved. And the Resident Evil 2 remake just really encapsulates that fear of being in a town that is covered in zombies, and they add some new twists into the game. Like they included Mr. X, which I don't remember when I was younger ever dealing with him, but basically in a lot of the, or at least it was prominent in Resident Evil 3, and like they brought it back, but like there is a character that you can't kill that follows you. And God. In certain moments of the game, yeah, and I just had to, if on our Twitch stream, if you want to watch our first one, you can go to our YouTube page by searching Fandom Roulette. I actually had to deal with the first encounter with Mr. X, who you can't kill, but he'll follow you for a long time. And so you have to like juke him around, and you have to like if you have a puzzle, like you have to figure out the puzzle while you're moving, because he'll keep coming after you, and like there's not a whole lot you can do sans shoot him just to kind of stall him out for a second. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's terrifying, but that's something that I didn't experience in the old game. That was very like new to this game, and there, you know, a lot of people say that, or like in my head before the game came out, I was nervous about them remaking it because something that was so nostalgic about those old Resident Evil games were the clunky controls that like made you nervous to play because it was hard to move around. Because, you know, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but it instilled this fear like, oh shit, I don't know how to control my own body because I'm so afraid. And I feel like that resonates really well with the tanky controls.
Uh-huh.
But then they were like, no, we're going to get rid of the tanky controls. You're going to have your Resident Evil 4, 5, and 6, like, behind the shoulder camera. But, you know, we're going to really fuck with you. We're going to, like, you know, ammo's going to be a huge concern. You're not going to have a whole lot of ammo. If you miss your shots, like, those zombies stay there. They don't, like, go away. And the only time they're gone for good is if you know, shoot them in the head and their head explodes. Which isn't all the time. And so while it's still scary, it's scary for different reasons that they kind of slowly picked up in the later games, and they brought it back to Resident Evil 2. And then not only that, but they made it gorgeous and beautiful. Like, they didn't just remake the game with the shitty camera angles and the shitty controls and just made it look better. They straight up changed the way the game played and introduced mechanics that weren't there in Resident Evil 2. Like, it's a whole fresh new game. And the reason I bring all this up, besides the fact that we're streaming and you should watch, is the fact that I feel like that's the bar that should be set for remakes. I don't think you can call something a remake and charge the full price for a game if it doesn't reimagine or revitalize that experience in like a huge impactful way. Right?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Cause like there are other games out there and I've used ports a lot, but like the Phoenix Wright port, like unless that game's really cheap, I've already played all the Phoenix Wright games. I know how they all end. If all you're doing is changing the graphics and you're not changing anything, like why would I play it again if it's just the same game and it's a story game? You know what I mean?
I do, yeah.
And basically, in a nutshell, it has set the bar, and I feel like it'll be interesting to see Resident Evil 3. Because I think they're using the same engine, so we're going to get a similar experience, but now we're dealing with a new set of characters. It's still in the same city, although different parts of the city, but the police department is kind of like the big one. And then a new kind of traveling threat nemesis, which if you've seen the Resident Evil 3 remake trailer, you've already seen that dude. That dude's scary as shit. He's got this weird messed up face and like a tentacle arm and all sorts of nasty stuff. But I am really excited for this remake because I think they've taken the Resident Evil concept, they pulled it to their extremes. They've tested it with all these different games, 4 to 6, and they've really played with it. And now they're going back and being like, hey, let's remake these games in the style that we've kind of perfected. And I think it really works for these games. Whereas I see some ports and I'm like, that's cool. It's great that I can show that, like Phoenix Wright, perfect example. If you haven't played Phoenix Wright, it is a puzzle game where you play a detective or a defense attorney. And it's you go around, usually you go around, you investigate the crime scene, you talk with witnesses, and then you have the court case. And there's this kind of like courtroom drama where you're trying to like find a way to prove the innocence of the person you're defending. And it's a puzzle game because you're trying to figure out like what actually happened, because 9 times out of 10 the person you're defending is actually not guilty of the crime, so you have to figure out how they're not guilty. And it's super great and it's super fun, but like if you've already played it, I wouldn't recommend it unless you're just jonesing to play it again. You know what I mean? But like if you're new, I'd be like, hell yeah. So I see the merits in those games. At the same time, if you're going to quote unquote remake something, my bar is set at Resident Evil 2. If you're going to port a game and you're just going to make it so it's playable on the platform that you want to bring it to, that's fine. But in my personal opinion, I feel like those games shouldn't be full-priced games anymore. You know what I mean? Because like that was kind of the bummer of Link's Awakening, is that was a full-price game, and I burned through that so quickly, whereas I didn't burn quickly through Resident Evil 2, and I think I ultimately... They're not the same game, so I'm not comparing them based on like what their games are, but I don't know. I didn't feel as cheated on my money with Resident Evil 2 Remake just because it blew me away how different it was. Whereas Link's Awakening, like visually it blew me away and I had a really good time with it. But it was all the same beats, you know? And for being a puzzle game, that kind of sucks because part of the puzzle for Link's Awakening is figuring out how you do those puzzles.
Sure.
So those were my thoughts. This is more of just like a rambling and like talking about remakes and talking about the future because, you know, remakes aren't going anywhere. Ports aren't going anywhere. In fact, we're probably going to see more of them now than we did last year. You know what I mean? Because there's so many games that they're going to want to, that they're going to keep bringing back because people love them. Like the Final Fantasy VII remake that's coming out this year that got delayed till April. That was the other big one that got delayed.
Aha.
Like that game. Around. Yeah, it all comes back around. But Final Fantasy VII, that's going to be a big one because not only are they're kind of moving away from like the turn-based combat from its earlier thing, but also they're doing like the Resident Evil 2 style makeover where it's, you know, if anyone's familiar with Final Fantasy VII, all the characters, they had like really beautiful like portrait art, but like the in-game sprites were literally just like polygons. Oh. Like they looked like silly people that you would make in like in class with like paper and construction paper and made them all 3D. Like it was like origami, I guess.
I saw it for the first time. I had never seen the graphics from that game before, and I cackled.
Yeah, it's like hilarious. It's kind of like imagine the ships from Star Fox on the SNES, but like slapped into these beautifully hand painted sceneries. And that's Final Fantasy VII. And now they're gonna go and remake all the art. They've changed the combat so that it's even more interesting. Like those are the kinds of remakes that are really going to like wow people, and they're gonna be things that we remember, not do you remember the port for the game that you really enjoyed? Like, yeah, sure, you know, what have you. But yeah, that's my soapbox this this week about remakes. Because at the end of I think at the end of the day, you know, they're gonna be a big part of this year. They're gonna continue to be a big part of the gaming culture in general. And I wanted to do something a little more freeform this week, I guess.
Sure, sounds good to me.
Yeah, so do you have any questions about all the nonsense I just spat your way?
Yeah, okay. So I have a two-part question.
Hell yeah, love them.
Part one, what game would you like to most see get like a remake?
Ooh. Assuming I can't pick games that either already have them or are in the process of being made.
Yeah.
Man, that's tough. You know what? I would love to see a remake of Earthbound.
Okay.
I think getting the same treatment, like almost in a similar style to Link's Awakening. If you remember, like kind of that like almost ceramic diorama thing.
Yeah.
Like I would love to see Earthbound done in that way and like updated to modern tech and maybe introduce some modernizations of the RPG genre, cuz like that game is it's great, it's hilarious, and I love that game, but it's also a bit dated with some of its mechanics. Like
Sure.
people leave the party, and then if that person's equipped with anything, like you lose those items until they come back. You don't get your fourth party member until way late in the game when like it almost doesn't matter. Like I would love to see some modernizations of the RPG genre, update those graphics to like the nth degree. Oh, that would be such a good game. Do you have a game that you'd like to see remaked?
Oh, I do.
Yeah, hit me.
Sonic 06, change nothing.
Ooh, yeah. I would love for them to like, I know that's kind of a weird thing to say because Sonic kind of gets a bad rap.
Change nothing.
Ha!
Just
change absolutely nothing. Just port it onto
port it
to the PS5.
Hell yeah, do it, you cowards! All right, and then the second part, and I think you might have an inkling of where this question is going.
Yeah.
What game are you gonna say stay away from? Don't touch it. Don't remake it. It's pure the way it is. Don't mess with this game.
Don't mess with it because it's a timeless gem, or don't mess with it because it's hot garbage?
I mean, let's go with timeless gem because that's a more fun answer.
Okay, so
like
I might even be able to answer both.
Linked to your childhood that you can't imagine it.
Ooh, okay, so it has to be something that's linked to my childhood.
I mean, not necessarily, but like a game that like occupies just such a place in your brain that you couldn't imagine them remaking it in any way. Like you wouldn't even want to see a version with better graphics or something like that.
Ooh,
you know?
Okay. I don't want them to touch. Well, no, fuck, they already did. Never mind. I guess that doesn't apply. I was gonna say Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, but they already touched that. Shit, man.
Because I also have an answer. I will give my answer if you want a minute to think.
Yeah. Hit me with yours, and I'll think about it.
Super Star Wars.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow, what a poll. Love it.
That game, like, man, it's... Well, okay, so I was talking to my friend about this. Like, that's... One of the things that's so fascinating about that game is, like, imagine being a person who works for, like, the Lucasfilm video game division, and they're like, all right, here's Star Wars, make a video game out of this, and there's nothing, like, especially in that first chunk of the movie, that's, like, super duper, like, video gamey, so they're just like, fuck it, you're climbing up a booby-trapped sandcrawler now. Why? Because we need a level for a video game, fuck you. And then... imagine that thing that you did because you had to make a level for a video game of a movie that didn't necessarily have a lot of video gamey components, at least not right out of the gate. You're watching your Disney Plus subscription with your grandkid, and oh my god, there's an episode of The Mandalorian where they took that thing that you did, a booby-trapped sandcrawler, and now it's real. Imagine how cool that must feel.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, so I have an answer.
Okay.
But I do love that poll. So I would be okay with a port, but I would not be okay with a remake.
Okay.
Which is Luigi's Mansion.
Huh.
I think the way that game, the first one anyways.
Sure.
I think that game is perfect the way it is.
Okay.
I think graphically it's charming, but not like dated, like it's got this certain, it's almost got like that, like Pixar, like polish to it, like everything, like there's lots of like heavy animations, and even some more subtler ones that kind of really hit the atmosphere. I think the like the orchestrated music and the fact that like Luigi hums to it, like it's perfect the way it is. I would love to like be able to play it again, because it's all, as far as I'm aware, it's like on the GameCube and the DS, and that's about it. I would be okay with ports, but I think the way it is as a like controller in hand playing game, it's fun, and I love that there's this kind of replayability with the fact that like the amount of money that you make throughout the game, because like there's just money everywhere in this mansion, like correlates to the kind of renovations you do at the end of the game. And so like the more money you have, like the nicer and bigger your mansion ends up being at the end of it, which was like such a cool thing that made me want to replay it a few times.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know what you would even add to that first game to be like, yeah, this was 100% necessary.
Sure. All right. Well,
that or I would like them to visually update Star Fox 64. I think that would be kind of rad.
Yeah,
but I would
agree with that.
Yeah, I wouldn't want them to change like the game. I just would like them to update it. That'd be kind of neat. But anyways, that's my remake spiel.
Yeah. So yeah, shall we wrap her up then?
Yeah, so if you're listening for the first time, welcome. If you are want to learn more about us or want to just like get more content, you can go to our website at www.fandomroulette.com, where we have all of our episodes. We have little short bios for Joe and I, and all the way at the bottom are all of our social media links. If you want to tweet at us about the things you liked, disliked, or just like random nerdy stuff, we'd love to hear from you. You can hit us at fandomr_podcast. If you want to send us like fan letters or talk about how much we talk absolute trash about your favorite game, all that stuff, you can send us an email at fanroulettepodcast@gmail.com, or at the bottom of our website, there is a little form that doesn't require your email. You could send it to us that way. If you are listening to this on a like podcast medium via like iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, Spotify, all that, make sure you can help us out by, liking it, reviewing it, or, rating it and sending it to your friends. Anything that you can do to help us out is greatly appreciated. If you are watching us on YouTube, or listening, because this is still an audio medium, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, smash the bell, do all that stuff. Anything you can do to help us kind of get up there. Yeah, smash the bell. That's what the big YouTube man behind me is saying to say. I gotta smash it. Yeah. Cool. So yeah, feel free to check us out on any of those platforms and help spread the wealth. And if you are here and you like video games, and that's why you picked up this part of the podcast, you can follow us on Twitch at twitch.tv/fandomroulette.
Yeah.
Or Mixer under the same name, where every Monday from 6 to 10, I will be playing, for at least right now, the Resident Evil 2 remake, but in the future will be a variety stream, usually be kind of prepping for the next episode. If you want to talk to me, just have a fun little chat, or you want to talk about the games I'm playing, or want a sneak preview, you can find me there.
Yeah. All right. So yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening to Fan Roulette. Signing off for Fan Roulette, this is Joe.
And I'm Cody.
And as always, stay nerdy.
Stay super nerdy.